Here I am trashing the WWE for constantly saying that they care about tag team wrestling, and here I am basically putting together the show today talking about the Royal Rumble, and just now I figure out all of the undercard is all tag team matches. This next one is a match that honestly is going to hurt. The Ascension going up against the New Age Outlaws. This was all basically put together on Monday Night Raw, the go-home show during Raw Reunion. You know, you could see this coming. I know that when the Ascension came up, they were the team in NXT that they were the tag team champions down there for a long time, but nobody was really that big of a fan for them. But you knew that, you know, as long as they were down there and they were on top, someday they were getting that ticket punched up to the main roster. And here we are. They're finally here, and they have less fans now than they did when they were in NXT. Victor and Connor are a team that they put together that just ran through just about anybody before the Lucha Dragons finally got a hold of them and were able to take those championships away from them. They went on the feud where they were, you know, picking on Hideo Itami down there before Prince Baylor showed up, and you know, they taught them a lesson at the last NXT pay-per-view. But here they are. They get called up to the main roster. They start painting their face up. They make a debut where it looks like they're baby faces, where they win their debut in a match against former tag team champions Miz and Mizdow, moments after they have lost their tag team championships to the Usos. I thought maybe they would be put into a feud with those guys and try and get them over as baby faces, because in their you know, vignette that they put together trying to you know, get these guys over. These guys were calling out Demolition. They were calling out Legion of Doom, Powers of Pain, and basically, you know, these guys were painting themselves up. They're big, strong-looking dudes. But the one thing you don't want to do is compare yourself to WWE legends. We saw the Legion of Doom go into the Hall of Fame WrestleMania 27 weekend. Probably one of the coolest speeches and the coolest moments I've ever seen at the Hall of Fame is when Paul Ellering and Animal put the Hawk Hasbro figure onto the podium to sort of soak in the moment. You know, Hawk couldn't be there because of his untimely death back in the day, but all three of those teams would be in the top 10 tag teams if I made that video. Honestly, when it comes down to it, Demolition would be my number one. I grew up loving those guys. I wasn't real close with the Road Warriors or Legion of Doom because I didn't really get to see a whole lot of them until they finally came to the WWF, and I know people that were close to watching them in the NWA knew that the Demolition were sort of, you know, copycats of them. But to me, being a pro WWF guy, I thought that they were copies of a Demolition, and they were younger guys coming in to sort of take over the spot, because you could tell at the time Demolition had added a third member, Crush, trying to push Axe out of the group because he was an older veteran that, you know, couldn't go on the road, and they could keep Demolition wrestling house shows, keeping them fresh for pay-per-views, and it just was an all-out good thing to add to Demolition. They were a team that just beat up and crushed everybody. Putting them as a three-man team going up against Legion of Doom and the Ultimate Warrior was great for house shows, great for the Survivor Series. Really, really fun stuff to watch. But the Ascension, Victor and Connor, they're no Demolition. They're no Legion of Doom. I know the Powers of Pain never were, you know, big-time champions, but they're stars. Back when the WWF used to make stars, from watching them wrestle on, you know, Superstars and Wrestling Challenge, just seeing them crush guys and just getting victories. There's, I don't know. I don't think people would watch jobber matches in today's wrestling time period, I guess you can say. I think that people have moved on. The Monday Night Wars with Nitro and Raw always having to, you know, constantly push each other to try and make each other better, to try and take over the top spot in wrestling. I think that sort of killed off that part. But seeing guys like the New Day, seeing guys like the Ascension beating up, you know, jobber tag teams, you know, you would definitely help if that's what everybody else was doing at the time. But on the Raw reunion, of course, it was the NWO down there in the ring. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and X-Pac, they were all having a moment when they were interrupted by the Ascension. I think everybody knew that the the NWO wasn't going to really get physical. Of course, X-Pac was the guy that was sort of in the front, looking like he was going to do the work, but I think due to his illness, I don't think he's cleared to wrestle. I don't think that you could, I don't know, I've heard him tweet sometimes that he's almost cleared of hepatitis. I didn't know you could be, but I'm not a doctor. Scott Hall, I don't know if he can pass a physical or not, but I'm sure Kevin Nash, if it came down to it, he could. But the NWO was the wrong team in there. Some people liked it. I hated it. The NWO, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, no fucks were given. They wanted to get themselves over, and I know that these are Hunter's boys from NXT, but they did not cooperate at all. When they called them old dogs, Kevin Nash put the paws out there, trying to make this into a comedy moment, and I don't know, if you look at the way, Shawn Michaels, Hollywood Hogan, and Ric Flair handled the Big Show in their segment, that was class act. These guys know that, well, most of them know, but at least Shawn does. Shawn knows he's not getting into the ring anytime soon. He's past it. Ric Flair has said that if he's needed, he'll get in the ring, but Hunter and Vince won't let him do it anymore. Hollywood Hogan is pushing to get a match at WrestleMania. He wants that one more moment in the sun. He doesn't want his career to end with that last TNA match. He wants to really be on top when he goes out, and I don't think it's really about the payday. I think it's about the fame for him. But Big Show came into the ring. He knocked out Ric Flair. Ric Flair, fired up on him. But the way Shawn and Hulk sort of feared the Big Show beating them up as well was awesome before Roman Reigns came down to save the day. That's what the NWO should have been. It was cool to see the APA with Bradshaw getting up off of the announce desk and getting all fired up and yelling at the Ascension. But for him to get in there and basically not take the fight to the Ascension and have to have the New Age Outlaws come out there and do it, I don't know. The New Age Outlaws, for guys that are going to be wrestling on the pay-per-view, I know that, both of these guys have jobs within WWE as, backstage. I've heard that Road Dogg is like one of the agents, and Billy Gunn does some help with the training and stuff like that, at the Performance Center. It's just, this was the senior citizen home beating up on the new kids on the block that are supposed to be there. If you can remember, I know that it was like 6-on-1 when Nexus came into the ring in 2010 and they tore apart Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the past legend. I know this was the opposite. It was 3, 4, 5. It was 7-on-2. I don't know. The Ascension should have beat all 7 of these guys up at one time. Left them laying. They could have just, hit them a few times and they could have fell down. It wasn't like they had to hit any of them with their big impact moves. Billy Gunn and Road Dogg, they could have took a big slam from them if it came down to it. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't think this gets over the Ascension at all. People might chant, "You suck" at them from here on out. But I don't think WWE wants people chanting, "You suck" at these guys. I think they want them on the edge of their seats, sort of on the verge of liking these guys, but they're bad guys, but knowing that they're, beating each other up and they're having good matches. That's the kind of things that I think that the WWE should be looking from out of these tag teams, not just a team that you can chant "you suck" at. It almost reminds me of like Lance Storm, back in the day when WWE wanted everybody to chant "boring" at him. You're just showing everybody else that, you're basically saying like, here's the remote. Change the channel. When you admit something that you're doing is bad, you're pretty much telling the viewer at home that they're wasting their time. And I think that's a lot of what's going on with the Ascension right now. So the Ascension versus the Outlaws, I'll pick the Ascension, hoping they pull out a victory and hoping they can do something to get themselves over for future matches in the future.